Every community has its own challenges. Private enterprise or government support can offer potential solutions for some challenges, but they may not be the best models for others. You might have heard the social economy mentioned as another option, but what is it?
I think the social economy, first and foremost, is a way in which people come together to solve problems that they're facing.
For social economy enterprises, they see a need in their community that's going unfilled.
It can be an answer to many economic and social challenges.
We talk about businesses, enterprises that are founded by community members, managed by community members.
I think we can see that the social economy is not just for saving businesses in rural areas. It can really be a great option for any industry.
And they have been part of the economy of Quebec more than 100 years.
The social economy consists of businesses of all types. Let's say that on your way to drop your kids off at a CPE, you stop for a coffee at a worker-owned co-op where you order a muffin made with ingredients produced through an agricultural federation, and you pay from your Caisse Populaire account. You may not be aware, but social economy enterprises like these are all around you. Here's Hoffman Wolf, the social economy manager at CNET, the social economy initiative of the Regional Development Network, to explain more.
The social economy has different definitions throughout the world. Sometimes it's standardized, sometimes it's not. In Quebec, there's a specific definition for the social economy that's set out in the law. There's a Social Economy Act in provincial law, and it includes cooperatives, and it includes revenue-generating nonprofits. So that's nonprofits whose income comes not just from grants and government and donations, but they have a business element to what they do.
And here's Jacob Hamel from Le Chantier de l'Économie Sociale to sum it up for us.
So fundamentally, the social economy business model is a way of organizing an enterprise and doesn't dictate what sort of work you can do. So you can actually start a social economy enterprise in any sort of sectors.
Basically, the company needs to be formed as a cooperative, a nonprofit, or a mutual. Cooperatives can be organized in a few different ways: as a worker co-op, a producer co-op, a solidarity co-op, a consumer co-op, or a worker shareholder co-op. Social economy enterprises are present in all industries and sectors, from software development to engineering firms to that coffee shop you love. What makes these organizations so different is that they operate according to the principles of democratic governance.
The fact that a forestry co-op or a healthcare co-op or a housing not-for-profit or any sort of business could be managed by individual citizens is a wild idea. Not because it's surprising or original or impossible, but just because we're not used to that idea of taking charge of our own communities.
Social economy enterprises are governed democratically. One member, one vote is the main way that they structure themselves, rather than for-profit enterprises where one share equals one vote. For social economy enterprises, their main concern is benefiting the community they serve or their members.
And what that means is that there's a group of people elected by the members of a co-op or of a not-for-profit that set the general strategy of a social enterprise, that set the governance of help make decisions.
Social economy entrepreneurs launch a project after identifying an important need in their community, often one that would be challenging for a for-profit enterprise to fill. Or they simply aspire to something more for their community, workplace, or industry. Usually, they are looking to create a fairer and more just framework. This was the case for Hugh Maynard. When his community's local newspaper was on the verge of folding, he stepped up with several other community members to take over the Gleaner and resume publishing. We all know that being in the media business today isn't easy, but the social economy model has given the Gleaner a second chance.
The idea is that instead of undertaking a business activity to generate money, to produce a profit, to pay the owners or the shareholders, you undertake a business activity that then benefit either the members, which is a different variation of a shareholder, isn't it, or the community in in general. And one of the examples is in a lot of small rural communities is there's not enough people to keep the dépanneur open. There's not enough people to keep the gas station open. And so when there's no store and there's no gas station, people don't want to live in the community, they move somewhere else, and it's just a downward spiral as you go along. Quite clearly, there's no business case. But if there's a nonprofit that will take it on, there's access to different programs, you don't have to generate a profit, your mandate is to serve the community with food and fuel, then hopefully people will stay and you'll be able to build the community in other ways. So there's a classic example of a social enterprise, part of the social economy.
The social economy can have a considerable impact on communities. Ruth Taker is the director of a producer co-op that helps fishermen in the Magdalen Islands bring their products to market. By collectively advocating for better prices, they maximize fishermen's incomes, keep more money on the islands, create better jobs, and improve the quality of life for all islanders.
We make as much money as we can here in order to provide the best price we can for our fishing members. The co-op model allows your members to participate in your organization, whereas in a private business, whoever the owners are, they do what they want in their own business. And if you're selling your product to them, well, you're at their mercy, whatever it is they decide to do. That's the difference. Here they have more of a say, I guess you want to put it that way. They can come to the annual general meeting and make suggestions and all that kind of stuff.
Social economy enterprises have been an important part of Quebec's history and an essential tool for our communities for more than 100 years. They were originally created as ways for communities scattered across our vast province to build self-sufficiency.
History of the social economy in Quebec, you can start in 1996 and you can start in 1896, or you can start earlier than that. Fundamentally, we're talking about people who are faced with a difficult environment, with a lack of resources, and come together in their communities. And we can talk about Desjardins or agricultural cooperatives or forestry cooperatives or so on. Or we can look closer to today and look at 1996, which was the great Sommet de l'économie de l'emploi. And at that summit, the community economic development movement sort of formalized into this thing called l'économie sociale. And our first couple of great innovations in économie sociale in Quebec, and we can talk about le réseau des CPE, of course, or we can talk about things like le réseau des ESAD, this group of social enterprises that take care of our elderly by offering home care.
The Social Economy Act was enacted by the Quebec provincial government a couple of decades ago to specifically define what the social economy is and what the social economy enterprise is. So it does a better job defining the one member, one vote concept. At what point does a nonprofit organization, can it be considered a social economy enterprise? And different elements like that really provide a framework for defining it in the province, which is something you don't necessarily see elsewhere in the world and elsewhere in the country.
Quebec has become a world leader in the social economy, in part because we made it part of our legal system. Every year, delegations from around the world come here to learn how our system is structured to support this part of the province's economy. In turn, we learn from best practices elsewhere, making our economy even more resilient.
La loi sur l'économie sociale says social economy enterprise is an enterprise that's a not-for-profit or a cooperative that sells goods or services. Fundamentally, that's what it's talking about. And the law isn't a precondition to social economy enterprises existing. It's a consequence of social economy enterprises existing. The law doesn't create new obligations, doesn't create any new rights. But what it does is it creates a framework within the state apparatus, to be able to refer to something, an entity that is defined and exists, to be able to build programs and to be able to create the conditions for the social economy to keep growing.
No one can say where the social economy can take us, but we can already see that it's full of promise for good jobs, more meaningful relationships, and benefits for the entire community.
I don't think the social economy is only part of certain solutions to some of the greatest crises that we're facing. I think in some cases, it's the only reasonable solution. And if we want to break a lot of the habits that we formed and that were formed for us, then we have to find a way to transform it and go towards a model that is more respectful of our environment, more humane, more compassionate, and works for the benefit of the entire community.
By changing how we do things, we can create a stronger society that works for everyone. And we've only just begun to see what's possible.